Korea's first infrared imaging satellite has successfully beamed back to Earth. We bring you more on Korea's latest in space innovation. Korean troops are being deployed to the Philippines to help with disaster relief efforts there. And 9 ancient Korean artifacts stolen by U.S. soldiers during the Korean War could soon find their way back home. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Friday, November 22nd. I'm Luke Clary. Korea's first infrared imaging satellite successfully beamed back home to Earth last night. That brings us to 4 out of 4 Korean-developed satellites safely reaching orbit.
The Science and Technology Satellite 3 was launched into space yesterday along with the Dnepr rocket. 16 minutes after the launch, the satellite was detached from the rocket 600 kilometers above ground and entered into orbit. An hour and a half later, the satellite sent the first signal to the Svalbard station in Norway. 6 hours after the launch, it passed over the Korean Peninsula and made contact with the Satellite Technology Research Center in Daejeon. The satellite safely made it into space and is operating normally. The Korean Earth observation satellite DubaiSat and the mini satellite 2, which was developed by a domestic university to research Earth's magnetic fields, also successfully made its way into orbit. The Science and Technology Satellite 3 has a special camera that can measure rays of light emitted by hydrogen ions in space.
가스를 관측을 함으로써 따뜻한 그 가스의 그 기원과 분포 그리고 물리적 성질을 연구할 수 있는 그런 카메라입니다.
With the success of the launch, Korea now has 8 satellites and ranks among the top 10 nations to have achieved this feat.
Korean troops are being dispatched to the Philippines to help with disaster relief efforts there. It's shaping up to be the largest overseas deployment of Korean forces since the U.S.-led war in Iraq.
Seoul announced its decision to send Korean troops in response to Manila's request for assistance. Korea plans to send 500 military engineers and medics to help with disaster relief and restoration efforts in the Philippines. This is Korea's 17th overseas deployment since the country joined the United Nations in 1991. It's also Korea's largest dispatch of military forces since it deployed the Daejeon division to operate in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. But this is the first time that Korea is going through with an overseas deployment at the request of a disaster-struck nation, not the UN. The Ministry of National Defense said the military dispatch is strictly for humanitarian purposes and is in some way a repayment for the Philippines' participation in the Korean War.
필리핀은 특히 그 6.25 때 병력을 참전시켰습니다. 그래서 112명의 전사자가 발생했고 299명의 부상자가 발생했습니다.
The Ministry of National Defense plans to send a joint inspection team to the Philippines early next week to check the extent of damage and to facilitate the Korean troops' mission. A Defense Ministry official said based on the findings of the inspection team, a dispatch motion will be presented to the National Assembly next Wednesday. Once Parliament gives the green light, the troops will be dispatched around mid-December.
The investigation continues into Unified Progressive Party lawmaker Lee Seokki, who stands accused of conspiring to stage a rebellion. The key witness has given his first court testimony.
Lee, who provided inside information on the revolutionary organization's plan for a rebellion, showed up to testify in court. Seated behind a screen to hide his identity, Lee said that RO membership was granted only to those that had gained thorough knowledge of North Korea's chuche, or self-reliance ideology, through study groups and clubs. He said in 2004, when he joined the group, he was questioned over who his leader was, to which he answered Kim Il-sung. When asked what his identity was, he replied, a revolutionist. He also testified that he realized for the first time in 9 years that United Progressive Party lawmaker Lee Seokki was the group leader when he learned at a meeting in May that there was one leader and that Lee was a South Korean politician. He also said that he ran for a parliamentary seat in Suwon back in 2008 at the instruction of the RO. The RO supposedly designated parliamentary and city council nominees for the Democratic Labour Party, the predecessor to the United Progressive Party. The witness also testified that the opposition Democratic Party and the DLP made a secret deal for local elections held in May 2010, and that the RO was involved in just about every hot political issue during that time, including the mad cow disease uproar. Given the importance of I's testimony, the court plans to have the witness testify again following the prosecution's examination yesterday. He was further interrogated today by defense attorneys and will undergo a cross-examination with investigators on the 25th.
The ruling and opposition parties are squaring off on economic policy. Both sides agree on the necessity of tax reforms, but executing those reforms is another matter.
The Saenuri Party says the bill on boosting foreign investment must be processed as soon as possible to help the economy rebound.
경제민주화란 3, 경제활성화 일자리 창출한 7 정도로 좀 무게중심 옮겨가야 되지 않나 이렇게 생각하는데.
The ruling party is also calling for the abolition of the real estate-heavy tax system because simply activating the real estate market is not enough to stop the skyrocketing prices for rental apartments. The main opposition Democratic Party criticized the government, saying that its economic policies are only pleasing conglomerates.
정부에서 15대 경제활성화 법안이라고 내놨습니다. 그중에 9개가 전경련이 원하는 법안인가 아십니까?
The Democratic Party is also urging the government to impose a limit on apartment rental prices and to endow tenants with the right to extend their real estate contracts. As for reforms, the Saenuri Party is calling for tax exemptions and the legalization of the underground economy, while the Democratic Party is demanding the abolition of tax cuts for the rich and an increase in the corporate tax rate.
9 ancient Korean artifacts that were stolen by U.S. soldiers during the Korean War have been recovered. The U.S. government plans to return them as early as June next year.
The national seal, called Hwangjae-jibo, or Seal of the Emperor, was used by King Gojong in 1897 and is represented by a dragon-shaped handle. Measuring 9.7 centimeters in length, this seal was made of jade and represented the king's wish for national independence. Another state seal, called the Sugang Taewang-jebo, or the Royal Sea of ex-Emperor Sugang, was made in 1907 to commemorate a royal ritual. The turtle-shaped Yuseojibo and the Chungmyeongjibo, which were seals used by the Joseon royal family, also have a high value as cultural assets. The 9 national seals of the Joseon royal court and the Korean Empire were taken illicitly from Deoksu Palace by American soldiers during the Korean War. They were recently found in San Diego and seized by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
유물 성격을 확인을 요청했고 확인을 한 후에 수사 당국에 그 압수수색 요청을 하게 된 것입니다.
It will probably take the U.S. authorities at least 4 months to confiscate the artifacts and will likely be returned to their home country next year in June at the earliest. Back in September, the Cultural Heritage Administration was able to bring back the Hoju Taewangkwon currency printing plate. The administration plans to bolster cooperation with authorities to obtain all antiquities that were illegally obtained by American soldiers during the Korean War.
Tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of the North Korean artillery attack on South Korea's Yeonpyeong Island on the Yellow Sea. South Korean forces marked the occasion with military exercises.
Yeonpyeong Island in South Korea's Western Sea was shelled by North Korea in 2010, leaving some 20 soldiers and civilians dead or wounded. The military's K-9 self-propelled artillery unit showed up at the eastern front lines. The K-9 guns were used as South Korea's main artillery weapon against the North Korean attack 3 years ago. A series of loud gunfire echoed around the mountains, and the shells accurately hit the targets located 10 kilometers away. In the meantime, an infantry unit nearby was called to action. As soon as an emergency deployment order was given, the soldiers instantly put on their full gear and ran out into the field. Then they started firing the mortars. Yesterday, the Army 2nd Corps conducted tactical exercises preparing for artillery assaults and ground infiltration. The massive exercises mobilized a large number of troops and a wide array of artillery, including some 30 self-developed K-9 and K-55 self-propelled guns.
적이 도발한다면 도발 원점과 지원 및 지휘 세력까지 강력히 응징하겠습니다.
The latest military drill demonstrated the Korean Army's readiness for any armed provocations from the north and that South Korea will not tolerate another assault on its soil.
The United Arab Emirates was home to a recent Korean speaking contest. Participants flaunted their appreciation for the language and pop culture of Korea with imitations of regional Korean accents.
Arab nationals showcased their Korean-speaking skills, which they prepared hard for. They first found out about Korean culture through K-pop, which led to their affection for the country.
열정적인 춤은 제 마음을 사로잡았습니다. 자연스레 저는 한국 노래를 찾아보게 되었고
Another student doesn't hide her honest feelings about the Korean way of greeting.
한국 사람들은 아니, 밥 먹었어요? 이야기로 잘 지냈어요? 물어봐요. 진짜 이상해?
Some show off their speech in a different Korean dialect.
부산 사람들을 들어주실래요? 한국 먼저 재밌더라. 이거 한 번만 해봐라.
This student didn't like the smell of Korean food at first, but now has fallen in love and hopes to open a Korean restaurant.
여러분 지켜봐 주세요. 제 식단은 대박 날 겁니다.
The Korean-speaking competition is a testament to the spreading Korean wave phenomenon in the Middle East.
In entertainment news, Korean girl band 2NE1 has topped the music charts with a new album. G-Dragon of Big Bang took home a big award in China. All this and more.
Missing You is girl group 21's latest single. It's their first release in 2.5 years. The ballad number has a low bass sound and a sentimental piano accompaniment. The group's management agency says following the song's release, Missing You immediately topped 9 music charts, including music portals Melon and Mnet. 2NE1 will perform the song for the first time at the Mnet Asian Music Awards in Hong Kong on Friday. G-Dragon, a member of boy band Big Bang, has won an award for the most welcomed foreign artist in China at the inaugural Young Choice Music Awards. The award ceremony was hosted by Youku, the largest video-sharing website in the Chinese-speaking region. An award ceremony was held Wednesday at the Daejeon Olympic Stadium, where G-Dragon sang 2 songs from his second album, including Coup d'etat. The band Pop Capella $1, consisting of 5 distinct opera singers, has released their very first single album. The album is filled with fun, unique songs combining the genres of pop and a cappella.
It's this time of year every year that people start thinking about donations to the needy. And thanks to advances in IT technology, there are fun new ways of lending a helping hand this holiday season and beyond. Chung Jin-pyun works for a venture firm in Seoul. Every day during lunchtime, he exercises at a nearby park. He does it to keep fit. But first, he always makes sure the charity application on his smartphone is running.
걸으면 10m마다 1원씩 기부가 되는 스마트폰 앱이에요.
While the application is on, it measures the distance walked via GPS. The company that developed the application and its sponsors later donate money to the needy based on the distance covered. For instance, if you walk 1.71 kilometers in 30 minutes, you've just racked up 171 won in charity. That's just 15 cents, but it adds up.
점심시간 활용해서 이렇게 좋은 길을 걷게 되고 그 걷는 길에서의 걸음이 기부까지 되니까 2배의 행복을 느끼는 것 같아요.
This application can be used on mountains just as well as flat surfaces. Hikers climbing mountains can donate funds to children with disabilities. This method of donation doesn't cost you anything, it doesn't take time out of your day. What's more, it makes you healthier.
너무 좋은 것 같아요. 이게 우리가 이렇게 뭐 직접 돈이 들어가는 게 아니라고 하는데 걸으면서 기부한다고 하니까 제 건강도 좋아지고 기부도 하고 너무나 좋은 의미의 웹 같습니다.
마음만 있으면 누구나 어떤 자기 행동을 가지고 누구를 변화시킬 수 있는 어떤 되게 소중한 경험이라고 생각을 하고 있거든요. 항상 휴대할 수 있는 핸드폰이랑 어떤 앱이라는 성질을 같이 이용을 해가지고 기부 앱을 만들게 되었습니다.
This hair salon in Seoul donates its customers' hair to those who need it. The salon owner came up with this idea to raise awareness among young people about making donations.
여기서는 특별한 걸 기부한다는데 어떤 건가요?
네, 저희는 고객님의 자른 머리카락을 기부를 하고 있습니다. When customers with long and healthy hair want to get a haircut, the hairdressers offer them the chance to donate their hair instead of throwing it away. Customers almost always agree.
머리카락은 잘렸어야 되는 머리고요. 버려야 될 머리를 기부한다고 하시니까 좋은 일을 쓰신다고 하니까 저는 괜찮은 것 같아요.
The number of hair donors has exceeded 15,000 nationwide ever since hair donation became popular on social networking sites.
요즘 SNS를 많이 하잖아요. 저도 SNS를 하다가 이런 내용들이 있는 SNS를 접하게 돼서 저도 이렇게 실천을 해야 되겠다라는 생각을 하게 된 거죠.
Many of the parents whose children suffer from leukemia can't afford wigs because they are very expensive. By providing your hair to a foundation or company that produces wigs for ill children, you can make your own contribution. Thanks to the rapid advancement of information technologies, donating and helping those in need couldn't be easier.
Now we'll take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. We'll see you right back here at the same time on Monday. Have a great weekend.